Good evening. My name is Dick Sturgeon. I'm a workers advocate for an organization called Workers Have Rights Too. With me this evening is workers advocate Deb Borg, who has been helping us for several years in our organization. This is the first of a two-part program that we're going to present regarding youth in the workplace. The program today will talk about some of the laws that apply to the 14 and 15-year-old students in the workplace, and the next program then will go into what applies not only to 14 and 15-year-olds but also to the 16-year-old and older students in the workplace. We have with us we have a printed agenda that we're going to go by, and we have some inserts that are going to be put up too. And if you have some questions along this way, and I urge you to get a pencil and paper ready, because we're going to give you some information you might want to write down.
Talking about the child labor laws, are there still problems as far as students in the workplace? We still have problems going on?
There are, and we've got a lot of calls about them, and a lot of times it's people misunderstand what the law does provide. In other cases, it's a case of where the employer knows what the law is, but he's using a 14 or 15-year-old for jobs or for hours that they're not supposed to work. We get a lot of calls about this. We get a lot of calls from educators that are concerned about their students working too many hours or doing work that is real dangerous. So it is an area that I think that we need to get the word out that there are certain laws that cover workers, but we also need to get the word out that there aren't some laws that people think there are.
Okay. Who's covered by these laws?
The child labor laws come basically from two sources. In Iowa, the state child labor laws covers all employees in the state. It doesn't matter how big of an employer you work for, how much money they make, or anything like that at all, what type of employment or anything, they're covered by the law. The federal is different. The federal law applies, by the way, in South Dakota, in Nebraska, and all the other states, of course, because it's a nationwide law. But it covers people who are generally covered under the minimum wage criteria. If the person qualifies for minimum wage, then they fall under the child labor law. But in Iowa, everybody's covered by the state law.
What hours can a 14, 15-year-old work under these laws? We
have an insert that we're going to put up on that, and the one thing for you to remember is that there's two different criteria. One criteria is for the period of time when school is in session. And some of the laws actually set out the time on the calendar, but the safe way to put it is during the school year. In Iowa, a 14 or 15-year-old can work 4 hours a day or 28 hours a week, and that can be from that can be anywhere from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., but they can't miss school in order to work. There are some cases where they have a sliding schedule where it can be worked out with the school. They don't really miss time. Flexible hours is what I was trying to think of. They do have some flexible hour allowances where they can work it out with the school system where the student can get off in the afternoon or something. On weekends they can work 8 hours, but again it has to be between the 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. What we find a lot of times is that that employers will the 7 o'clock p.m. person won't come in. And the 14 or 15-year-old is asked to stay until they can find somebody to take over or until that person comes in. And a lot of times they'll find those students there until 10:30 until relief is found. The federal law is a little bit more restrictive. It provides they can work up to 3 hours a day, not more than 18 hours in a week. And again, it's from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and this is when school's in session. They can't miss any school in order to work, and they can work 8 hours on weekends. Now during non-school periods, and this is in the summer or during the periods of time when they're out for Easter recess or Christmas recess, they can work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. But again, there's hour limitations. It's got to be then from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. And again, on weekends they can work 8 hours a day, but not more than 40 a week. So there's two different laws, but the main thing is that if a student is working, they have to take it upon themselves when 7 o'clock comes to say that's it, or when 9 o'clock comes in the summer. Employers should be doing that because they can be fined real heavy if they go over that. We just had a big employer here in Iowa who was fined substantially because working kids beyond the time.
Okay. Do the 14 and 15-year-olds need to have work permits?
You know, this is one of the things that is kind of confusing to parents, especially. Under the Iowa law, yes. Under the Iowa law, in the school system here in Sioux City is the one that issues the work permits. In Iowa, a 14 or 15-year-old has to have a work permit. And the reason for that is that when they apply for that, they have to actually tell what kind of work they're going to be doing, what hours they're going to be doing it, the location. And the reason for that is make sure they're not doing something that's dangerous or unhealthy, and make sure it's between the proper times. Federal, there is no permit required. If it's in Nebraska or South Dakota, it's covered by federal law. There is no permit required. Employers are required, though, to make sure that the student is at least 14, and to require some type of proof, and that can be birth certificate, statement from a doctor, something like that. And the rules suggest that the employer hang on to those documents and be prepared to show them if the federal government comes in to do an audit. In Iowa, once the child has the work permit, if they change jobs or change locations, they have to get a complete new permit.
Oh, okay. Are there some occupations or different jobs that a 14, 15-year-old they're not allowed to do?
Yes, and again, this is one of the major problems we find, that in Iowa it's really restrictive, and of course, again, all workers are covered by it. And there's a big long list of them, and we're going to give the viewers a website where they can go look at that. But there's a big long list of it, and I generally tell people that 14 and 15-year-olds can do work such as stocking or carrying out in a grocery store, working in a nursery, as long as it's not with any moving equipment or running lawnmowers or weed cutters or things such as that. They can't work in heavy construction. They can't work around dangerous chemicals. There is a provision there's been a letter issued that allows youth to work around some farm chemicals, but again, if anybody's interested in that, they should get on the website, which we'll be giving you here in a little while. The federal law has a long list of them too, but they're classified. They use the jobs that have been classified by OSHA as hazardous working occupations. And again, the easiest thing to tell you is that it should be something that is not around moving machinery. They should not be driving. Right. There are some rules on frying. If they're going to fry French fries or something like that, where under what conditions they can do that. That's mostly to protect the student from any type of injury, and they have to speak up too. We had a situation where at a fast food place where one of the fryers was shocking anybody that would touch it. And when the 14 and 15-year-olds would report to work, they would be assigned to that fryer, and it was quite an electrical shock. And finally, one of them went home and told their parents and got it corrected. So.
Can the 14 and 50-year-olds work in agriculture?
Yes, and detasseling, hoeing beans, things such as that is what they use on that. And also, if the parents have a farm, they can do the farm work. Yes.
Are there any exceptions?
Under state law, yes, you can get exceptions on those rules. And federal, the answer is absolutely not. We're running out of time. Just I want to cover a couple things here. One of the shocking things is that a student who is working the employer can pay them $4.25 an hour for their first 90 days. And the purpose for that is to train, supposedly train that student on the job. In most cases, we find there is no training. They bring them in, they show them where the cash register is and where the fryer is and tell them to go to work. But the law does allow that. It also allows that if they work on a job that provides for tips, that their base pay can be $2.13, and then their tips go on top of that to make up for the minimum wage of the $5.15 minimum wage. If it doesn't add up, the tips don't add up to that, then the employer has to make that up. But we've had a lot of calls where kids have got $4.25 an hour and the parents figured that just wasn't proper. For the first 90 days it is.
Okay. How would a student, a parent, or an employer learn more about this?
And this is, we're going to put up an insert here, and this is where you have the address, telephone number, and website of the Iowa Workforce Development, and also the U.S. Department of Labor. And if you're on the internet, or you can go to the library and get on the internet and look, and they'll give you all this information. It's really a great resource.
Are there any similar laws that apply to those who are over 16?
Yes, and that's one of the things we'll be talking about in the next program. I'd like to take this opportunity now to thank Morningside College and Siouxland Media for allowing us to come out and do this this cable program. We want to get the message out that that youth in the workplace have rights also.